Marty and Doc are back for another adventure through time. After using their time machine to tamper with Marty's life for a good reason, Marty gives in to temptation and tries to alter his future with greedy intentions, causing a ripple effect that will take Marty, Doc, Jennifer, and Einstein on a journey through the decades to set things right. Will they succeed? Or will they find themselves stuck in a world where Biff is the most powerful man on Earth? Time will only tell.
Welcome to Movie Friends. My name is Seth.
And I'm Michelle.
Today we're talking about Back to the Future Part 2 from 1989. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, written by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, cinematography by Dean Cundy, edited by Arthur Schmidt and Harry Karamidas, composed by Alan Silvestri, starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Thomas F. Wilson, Leah Thompson, and Elizabeth Shue. Michelle, how are you?
Hey, Seth, what's going on?
Season 2.
We're here. Wow.
We're here. Yep. Sequels month.
Sequels month. I can't wait for next January when we do continued trilogies.
Threequels month.
Threequel. Like how do you say that? It's like
Threequel. It's a threequel.
a three. I don't.
Oh,
I
no,
don't
wait.
think
Would a
that's
threequel be the
right.
fourth entry? Yeah, I don't know.
What?
Anyway, we already did Shrek 2.
We did.
But this feels
That
like the
little
first
episode.
real episode back.
I agree. We're like in our
Yeah.
separate houses. I'm looking at a
Yeah.
blurry Seth virtually. We're not in person. It feels real. This is we're back to normal.
Hey, how about that live show?
Hey, how about that?
It's pretty. That was a lot of work. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that was an emotional roller coaster. Was it worth it, Seth? Do you think it was worth it?
I do, definitely. Absolutely. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun too. Yeah,
You got to meet great people.
so amazing. The people who came out showed up.
Yeah. Unreal.
Yeah.
There were people that I didn't know who were coming who showed up.
Same. I cried.
We kept saying that we were never going to do it again. And then pretty much immediately we were like, all right, when are we going to do the next one?
It's this high. It's like getting a tattoo. When's my next one?
Definitely. That's a good comparison.
Yeah, I'm
Painful,
addicted now. I'm painful for sure.
but it
Is this a
happened.
good idea?
Right. Yeah. As it's happening, you're like, why am I doing this again?
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we got an email from one
Oh,
of the
goody.
people who came.
Oh my gosh. Who could it be?
Hey, Seth and Mitch. I'm currently watching Saltburn. I haven't listened to the episode on it yet, but I want to comment on the confusion of what year it is in the movie. At the start of the movie, you see the sign, Welcome Class of 2006. And since classes are called by their graduating year, that would mean it's 2002. However, when it's summer, they're reading Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which came out in summer of 2007. So I guess the welcome sign was for intake 2006, not graduating class? Anyway, I just finished the movie and it was very messed up. Now that I have finally seen this movie, or is it watched since I watched it at home, I'm going to listen to the podcast episode to hear your thoughts on it. Mike.
Mike. Oh, that Canadian friend of ours.
Yeah, Mike came from Canada to the show, and did he catch a goof here in Saltburn? I'm very
I
curious.
I thought of that actually when I was watching, but I'm like, maybe it's just how the Brits do it.
What, they get books ahead of time? Because if it came out in
No.
2007, how did they have this book?
Well, also I read that Superbad. It was like the summer in between. Because
Huh,
Superbad,
okay.
they talked about like when Superbad was released, and then
Yeah.
maybe Rosamund's character, what was her name? Elspeth.
Elspeth?
Elspeth, she had connections. Like that's what I read through all these forums.
Okay.
But in terms of like welcome class of 2006, I just took that as like, oh, that's how the Brits say it. Like we would say, like if I was entering high school, I'd be like, welcome to the class of 2005.
Right.
Because that's when I'm graduating. But maybe the Brits
Right.
are like, welcome new class of the year that it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he spent more time at the school than we originally thought.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, you know what? They'll know that it's been a year because the Deathly Hollows didn't come out until 2007, and everyone will know,
Yeah. I
except
don't
for
even
Seth.
remember seeing Deathly Hollows in that movie.
We got another email,
Ooh.
and this is going back into our December barrage of Christmas episodes.
Your favorite month so far, right, Seth?
It was horrible. Number one, we're watching Christmas movies. Number two, we were putting out like 3 to 4 episodes every week for the month of December. It was
Yeah.
nuts. I was just like editing like back to back, and I was like, I don't even like these movies. Like, what is this? But it was a lot of fun to see all the people, all the guests who came on and spend time
Yeah.
with them. So that part of it was good. But towards the end, I was
Right.
like, do we really need all of the Christmas movies in one month? Anyway, this email says, as the movie says, we need to keep the spirit of Christmas all through the year. So sending this email in January is just fine. I love the Muppets. If they didn't form my humor, I don't know what did. The Muppet Christmas Carol is one of my very favorite Christmas movies. The omission of When Love Is Gone in most versions is a crime against the movie. Glad there's finally a way to see it, but Disney needs to cut the crap and just make that the version you get. I once got to sing Thankful Heart in a show, and we insisted we perform it with sock puppets.
I have chills right now. I don't know who wrote this, but I'm a really big fan of this email. Like I legit have chills.
I don't know why I normally I say who the email is from, but both times it's a surprise. Maybe this is the new season
I
2 format for emails. Who
I
knows?
mean, I love a little surprise at the end. So,
Muppets from Space makes me giggle and is definitely the one I quote the most with my little brother. We saw the Muppets in theaters in 2011 and laughed harder than any child there, to the point that they were turning around staring at us. I once went to a Jim Henson exhibit and completely devolved into a giddy 5-year-old. I was inches from Kermit the Frog. All this to say, I think you should probably do a series where you watch every Muppet movie. Happy 2024, Betsy.
Betsy, my girl. Wow, Seth. What an idea to
I do think,
cover the Muppets. Can we
yeah,
do
I think
that?
at some point this year we should do either the original Muppet movie, Muppet Caper, or the 2011. I'm a big fan of the 2011 one.
Wow. Yeah, I
Thanks,
mean, I
Betsy.
love. Thank you so much. You
Th-
just sparked an idea.
yeah. Hey, if you want to be like Betsy and Mike, send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Did you come to our Shrek episode? Send us an email, tell us about it. Do you hate the Muppets? Don't tell us that. We'll
No, don't. We don't need to hear that.
be real upset.
Yeah.
Normally, at this part of the show, Michelle would give us her pre-watch thoughts, but since this is a film that she has seen a few times, I believe, we're just going to go right into it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we decided to do sequels, we wanted to do sequels that all had a third part, so that if the show continues until next year, we can do the part 3.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I should go along and be like, yeah, we totally decided that. Yeah, that was totally the plan.
We talked about that way back in like June. We were like, oh, you know what we'll do for January? Sequels to movies we've
Well,
already done. And it turns
oh,
out
no,
we've done so many movies that are part of trilogies.
right. No, I know I know January was sequel month. I didn't know the sequels that we originally chose had a third counter. Like that was like part of why we chose the first one to begin with. Anyway, continue, Seth. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So like we did Shrek, which obviously has
Yes.
Shrek 3, but
Yeah.
we have done The Godfather, The Matrix, Before Sunrise,
Planet of the
Planet of
Apes.
the Apes, at least one or two more that all
John
are
Wick.
John Wick. Yes, yeah, that's true. That's true. All part of trilogies.
Yeah.
And so we landed on this one. And so for those of you who haven't heard our Back to the Future episode, Michelle, can you just kind of explain like your relationship to these movies?
Back to the Future makes me so incredibly giddy. The soundtrack alone, as soon as I hear the music, I am like throwing my fists in the air. I am smiling. Like, to me, this is why movies are fun.
Yeah.
I love this trilogy, and Doc Brown is like one of my favorite characters in movies.
Yeah.
So that alone, and it's nostalgic for me. They're fun. I mean, the plots are ridiculous, but I also love time travel. I love these movies so much. And the first one we watched together, and that was a lot of fun. Me, you, and Aunt, and just
Yeah.
our
Mhm.
banter while we were watching the commentary. I love them so much.
I have not seen the second one in a long time. I've
Yeah.
rewatched the first one. Like I watched that with my older son, and I rewatched the third one maybe last year or the year before because I genuinely hadn't seen that since I was a kid. And I remember hating it as a kid. I was like, why is this a Western? This sucks. The other movies are so much better. And when I finished the third one, spoiler alert for a year from now, I was like, is this the best one? Like, this one is so good. And I was like crying at the ending, and I just couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
In texting you about this movie, because we generally don't talk a lot about the movie before we record, but you said something like, I've never thought about the plot as much as I have, and totally the same. Like I remember them being back in 1955, like way, way, way longer. I remember there being more stuff at like Biff's Casino, and then in watching it, I was like, oh wow, this movie is all over the place.
It's so insane. And this one was always my favorite one because I'm like, oh, it's so fun to go to 2015, and then we're back in 1955, and then we're in 1985. And, and you think of the future, like what
Yeah.
in 1989 what they thought 2015 would be, and that was always the fun part for me. But last night I'm taking my notes, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever truly like really paid attention to this plot. And I'm
Yeah.
like writing down all the notes, and I mean the dates, and I'm trying to like pinpoint, and I'm like, wait. And then I'm hyper focused on Griff and how like through
Oh.
one of these alternate lines he's probably eliminated.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's so convoluted, but I love it still. I love it.
I wasn't sure how I would feel about this going into it.
Yeah.
We had a great time rewatching number one, and I was saying how there's problems and things that you can pick apart, but how the ending sequence is just like undeniable movie perfection. The music and the tension, and how we were watching it. It's like I've seen this movie so many times, but I'm like, is Doc gonna get the cable connected in time? And with
Right.
this one, I didn't. I feel like this doesn't have that. Like this is kind of missing that sequence of events.
Yeah.
But Marty versus Biff in the car with the hoverboard, I do think is like really, really well done. It's really cool. It's kind of like Marty using technology from the future is like facing off against Biff with Biff's car from the past. So it's kind of like elements of
Uh-huh.
both
Uh-huh.
characters facing off against each other because Biff versus Marty in just a fight, like a fist fight, is never going to happen because Biff is like twice the size of Michael J. Fox.
Right. Right.
So I did think that was good, but this movie is definitely missing that big conclusion, you know, that big finale in like the third act. And I think
Yes.
it's because it really is like a middle, you know?
It is. I mean, it's
Yeah.
perfectly set up that way.
Did you see that they had originally intended on this being one movie, two and three?
What do you I did not know that. That's insane.
Yes. I think their first draft was like 150 pages or something crazy like that. And they said, you know, we know that we have to cut it down, but this is kind of what we want to do. And Spielberg was like, this is two movies. Just split it. Make it into two movies.
Yeah, I'm curious if they would have still started the way they started because we are traveling all over the place.
Yeah.
We are bouncing around. Like from where we started, like the first initial problem to where we end, it's like,
Right.
wait, what?
And I think some of that is also because, Zemeckis and Gale claim that they never intended for there to be a second movie. The ending with, oh, we need to go to the future, or all that. They were like, that was just like a fun gag. Like that was like a joke. We thought it'd be a fun way to end the movie. And I think it is a good fun way to end the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Zemeckis said, if I had intended for it to be a sequel, I never would have put Jennifer in the car at the end because she became a huge problem. And they just kind of like
Oh.
write her out by being like, you go to sleep now.
Interesting.
Yes. He was like,
That makes
it was like, if
sense.
it was going to be a sequel, it would have just been Doc shows up, grabs Marty, and off they go. Because then it could be
Wow.
anything.
Sure. Yeah.
The other thing that I found on I think it was like the official Back to the Future website, I found this quote from Michael J. Fox. He says, I was watching the videotape of Back to the Future when it was first released, and an indication of the possibility of a sequel came at the end of the video. 3 words appeared on the screen, words that had not been at the end of the film when it was originally released in theaters. To be continued. My first thought was to call my agent. And that's true. In the theaters, it did
Mm.
not say to be continued, but when they released it on home video, they put in to be continued.
Wow. Well, because at that point, I guess they knew.
Yeah, because it made tons and tons of money. I also watched an interview with Michael J. Fox where he said, I think he was in England when the movie released. He was doing
Mm-hmm.
like something for Family Ties in England.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And they called him and they're like, this is like the number 1 movie in America. And he was like, I didn't have a concept of what that meant. He was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And they were like, no, like this is huge. And he was like, okay. And he was like, I didn't understand it until like I came home and was suddenly like really swarmed by people that he like understood how big the movie was.
It's crazy to think about.
They had a lot of trouble. I feel like we're going to retread some points that we made in the first episode, so apologies. But like they had a lot of trouble selling the script. They've
Right.
been
I
rejected
remember
like
that.
40
Yeah.
times and they
Yep.
were like, we'll make it, but who knows if we'll make any money. And then they had the whole 5-week thing with Eric Stoltz. And so big trouble. But how did you feel about them reshooting the opening or reshooting the final scenes of the first movie and putting it into the beginning of this one, just with the new actress?
I think it's fine. It works. To me,
Yeah.
anyway. It's pretty seamless. I mean, besides the change of the actress. But if we're
Right.
setting up for where we're going to
Yeah.
the future, it makes sense to me. And then yeah, did you have a problem with it? That doesn't bother me.
No. I think that this movie is a lot of fun. And what they
It's so
do,
much fun.
yeah, what they do with the beginning, what they do, how it ends with like a mini trailer for the third one.
Yes. Because they shot, did I know, maybe I read this wrong and maybe this is false information, but didn't they shoot 2 and 3 simultaneously?
They shot them right after another. So
Okay.
they were in
Okay.
production for 11 months on the 2 movies. They had a
Yeah.
3-week break in between. Can you imagine working for an entire year?
I guess it's just one way to finish a story, right?
It's nuts.
Yeah.
So they had footage from the third one as they're finishing up, the effects and everything on the second one. So they're
Right.
like, yeah, we have it. Let's just put it in. And
Yeah. Why not?
it's not completely unique to this movie. A few movies had done it prior to this, but still not something that happens almost ever. Because how many people have footage from your third movie when your second movie comes out? Like it doesn't
Right.
happen.
Right.
The closest thing nowadays would be like Marvel movies because they're filming those at the same time sometimes, and sometimes the stinger scene will actually be a scene from one of the other movies. And but I think all of the stuff that they do going into the first movie, reshooting scenes from like different perspectives. Again, I don't want to claim and say like, oh, this is the first time it's ever been done, but how often does that ever happen?
I know, it's pretty cool, isn't it? I would like to look at side by sides, see if you can really spot anything that looks off. But it looks pretty darn good.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's coming out in a time where there wasn't YouTube and
Right.
you couldn't
Mm-hmm.
just pop in both DVDs at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so for just going off of people's memory, I don't think that they would be able to look at it and be like, hey, he said that a little longer or whatever. And it's
Right.
like, who cares? It's
Right.
time travel stuff. Who cares?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
How do you feel about the old age makeup in this movie?
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
Mm.
Michael J. Fox is doing a lot. He is playing himself in like he's playing himself, he's playing his older self, he's playing his two kids. Like we are playing a lot of versions
Yeah.
and like to bring a uniqueness to each one. And then you got Biff, an older Biff, and then Griff. Yeah, and then of course Leah Thompson. I kind of just accept it. It is what it
Yeah.
is. I
Yeah.
think it was interesting to use Michael J. Fox as as his daughter.
Yeah.
Like I can understand his son,
Yeah.
but his daughter.
Could you tell, like, so young Marty Jr., he
Yes.
does look so different from
Yes.
Marty from 85.
Yes,
And
he
I couldn't tell,
does.
like, what it was. Like, did they put in fake teeth? I know, like, he's got, like, different bangs, kind of, but I was just like, oh, you look like ugly Marty. Like,
He
what
looks
is happening?
greasy. He's super
Yeah.
greasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
It's
just
like a
looked
Clark Kent Superman thing going on where it's
yeah,
like, this is the same face, but
right.
holy moly.
It definitely they look different. They look
Yeah.
different. But like the daughter, why?
I mean, I probably just like, hey, it's a funny gag and we have
It's
the
funny,
technology and
I
we can do
guess.
it. But
Right.
I thought he did well, you know?
He did. When he
Yeah.
when we first see who it is and he just turns around, "Hi." You know.
Yeah. And I don't think he looks too much like Michael J. Fox.
No.
Yeah. Like I would believe that. If I saw that person, was like, this is Michael J. Fox's daughter, I'd be like, makes sense.
Yeah. And even when Michael J. Fox, when we see older Marty in
Yeah.
2015, where he's aged to be, you can tell it's him. And I know the old age makeup, we can judge it however, but it does look different enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Different enough.
So you
Different
have
enough.
like one, two, three, four versions of Michael J. Fox in one room,
Yeah.
essentially looking, and they all look pretty different and have different personalities. I was
Hmm.
impressed. I was like, Michael J. Fox, good job.
As I was watching this, I was like, who does old Marty look like? Like, who does he look like? Because he was reminding me of somebody, and then it clicked in my head because of the way he was talking, and I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my god, old Marty looks like Giovanni Ribisi. So if you haven't seen both in a while, just look up a picture of old Marty, look up a picture of Giovanni Ribisi. Trust me, and especially the
No.
way that he talks, it's like, oh, definitely, definitely.
Did that take a while for you to reach?
Yeah, it was like an itch in my brain. I was like, he looks
Mm,
like this is driving me nuts. It's almost like he was doing an impersonation of somebody, but of course, it wouldn't have been Giovanni
right.
Ribisi, but was a child when this movie came
Yeah.
out. But yeah,
Yeah.
and then Thomas Wilson playing Biff. He plays okay. I'm gonna try to keep this straight.
Yeah.
So he
I know.
plays 1955 Biff.
Yes.
He plays fixed timeline 1985 Biff, where he's washing the car. Then he
Yes.
plays broken timeline Rich Biff from 1985.
Yes.
Then he plays old man Biff in 2015. So that's four.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
he plays Griff,
His grandson.
his grandson, in 2015. And that's it, right?
I
Oh, and then we
believe.
we get a picture of Mad Dog.
Well, yeah. So he's doing a lot too.
So he's doing 5 different versions of Biff throughout the movie. And I don't know how you feel. I felt like this is Biff's movie.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the main he's like the main focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like all the scenes with him, I was like, this is really good. I brought up the makeup because I feel like the makeup, it's consistent with itself, but it doesn't necessarily like look great. Like it doesn't look
No.
convincing. It looks like caricature type.
It fits the movie. It fits for
Yeah.
everything else that we're seeing, the surrounding, the props, the settings. It
Yeah.
works. It all
Yeah. Yeah.
works.
I love the scene where Biff throws the ball from the little kids. I thought that
Mhm.
that was like just good acting for a little bit. I love all the stuff with old man Biff. Um,
Yeah.
Griff, I'm not the biggest fan of.
I like Griff. Griff is so unhinged. He's
Yeah.
so intense. But like, okay, I don't know if we should get into this now,
Yeah.
but when old man Biff gets the almanac
Yes.
and he gets into the DeLorean, he's like, I'm gonna go back
Hmm.
and tell my younger self, here, you can make a lot of money,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna change the future. He doesn't once for a second think like, if I do this, I could eliminate my grandson.
Well, he would eliminate himself, wouldn't he?
Well, no, because he's bettering himself, right?
But that version of him would disappear. Wouldn't that version of him
But,
disappear? Because,
huh. But his future would change. So you're only affecting yourself. But like Griff,
hmm.
but I guess Griff still does exist in the future because yeah.
But
I
Griff
don't know why I
Griff
was on like a
wouldn't.
Griff memory. Like I was
Right.
obsessed with Griff last night. Like if you were in my house, you would have been like, Michelle, I need to go to sleep. And I'd be like, no, you need to sit here and talk this out with me. And Aunt was
Yeah.
like,
Griff would disappear because Biff only marries Marty's mom because he has all the money and he kills George.
which is crazy.
So for Griff to be born, Biff Biff would have had to
Right.
marry someone else or at least father another child, and then
Yes.
that child would have Griff. So that child of Biff's wouldn't be around.
And that's what I'm saying. Like he doesn't even take that into account of like, oh, Griff would just disappear. Like I don't care about that.
Yeah. But yeah, it is really weird like the whole
Eh,
logic of, oh, we can leave Einstein and Jennifer where they are
Right.
because they like the world will change around them
Right.
and they also won't have any memory. But then I was like, but wouldn't they just cease to exist? Because this is, yeah.
I know. This is why this is so fun, though. This is why I love this
Eh,
so much.
yeah,
I
and
could
this
talk
is the
about
part.
this at nauseum.
This is the part where
Right.
it's like, oh, I really have never thought about this before. Like it was just like, yeah, get the almanac.
This is so fun. 2015 fashion. Right.
The other the the part that doesn't make any sense to me is like, okay, practically, I understand why the almanac is the size that it is.
Practically.
But this is a sports
Okay.
almanac that covers 1950 to 2000, right? Something like that. Maybe to 2015. I don't know. But it's a sports almanac that covers many years.
I don't think it's till 2015 because it's in that like nostalgia shop.
Right. Okay. So maybe it just goes to 1985. Whatever. It goes for years, though.
Yeah.
Griff, no, not Griff, sorry. Old man Biff opens to a page as they hear the score on the radio, which is like, okay, I get it. You have to prove to him that it happens. This book would be like 10 volumes. It wouldn't be a little thicker than a comic book. You know how many sports games there are?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The only way I
Every
thought is
week,
just like tiny print. But how did you find that so quickly? While
tiny
driving.
print,
While
right?
driving. While
And
driving.
then like, where does yeah, so that was my big beef with the logic of Back to the Future 2 was like that almanac would be ginormous. Or it
Yeah.
would just be like the biggest games. But even then it would be like that would be limited to just football. Like make it, and so like maybe if they just made it like, hey, this is just a football almanac, but I think he's
Mm.
winning horse races
Yeah.
with this
Yep.
thing.
Yeah.
How many horse races happen every day?
It's so true. It's
You
so
know,
true. He's
so
winning across many platforms of
right,
sports.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but again, I understand why, because it needs to fit into characters' pockets, and it needs to be like on the dashboard, and it needs to be moving around. But I had
What
never
bothered
considered.
me about that is, but then I justify it with just like Biff's an idiot, is when old
Yeah,
Biff is like, don't leave this hanging around. You have to keep it secure. And
yeah,
then Biff's like, duh, and he goes to the dance and he puts it on his dashboard. I'm like, hello, why are you bringing
right,
this with you?
yeah.
You know, but
I
Biff's an
wrote I
idiot.
wrote down in
So
my notes once we get to that part. I was like, the movie just becomes Marty almost grabbing a book like 20 times in a row.
and then getting it and then losing it and then
Yeah.
getting it and losing it. Yeah.
And then getting it, and it's ooh la la.
Right.
Which I thought was a pretty funny when Michael J. Fox is flipping through, he's like, ooh la
Ooh la
la.
la.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we did our episode on It's a Wonderful Life, I had said to you, it was like, does this remind you of like Back to the Future? The whole Pottersville.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because Biff's world, or I guess it's still called Hill Valley, but
Yeah.
it's very much like a Pottersville thing. Like it's like the same town, but now there's just a nightlife, I guess.
Yeah.
I also thought it was pretty funny how like the universal sign for like this place is bad is just like bikers. And
Mm-hmm.
like one sign said like bikers welcome or something. And I was like, I guess in the 80s bikers were still dangerous people. Now bikers are just like old people who like to
Old
ride
people.
around. I mean, am I wrong? Like,
No.
yeah.
Biker gangs.
You ever see the big biker groups on Long
The
Island?
Hell's Angels. I live like 2 minutes away from their headquarters.
What?
Yeah.
For real?
For real.
I think the Hells Angels are still dangerous people, right? That's like a
I don't.
gang.
I mean, aren't all bikers in gangs?
Yeah, but like I think some biker gangs. Oh, I'm gonna get the biker gangs
Here we come.
coming for us. Gonna be driving down the road, get someone hitting your car with a chain.
We're
I
gonna
think
get schooled for this.
some biker gangs, it's like a club, right? They call it a motorcycle club,
That's cute.
but then others are gangs.
I mean, what is a gang anyway? You know?
I don't know.
Yeah. Movie friend gang.
Yeah, join the movie friend gang.
Let's get leather jackets, faux leather, that
Oh,
have like our our emblem on the back. I would wear
okay,
that actually.
okay. I
Faux
I don't
leather
know that
though.
I've ever worn a leather jacket in my life.
Really? Oh, I love my faux leather jacket. I have to keep saying that because I won't wear leather, as you know.
Yeah, definitely. No, I
Yeah.
don't think I've never owned one.
I think you could pull it off.
You think so?
Should we join a biker gang this year, Seth?
I've never been on
Why
a
don't we
well,
just
no,
form
I
one?
rode
But
on.
the Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I did ride on a motorcycle once. I did not drive it. I was on the
Oh,
back.
I was gonna say we can be a motorcycle gang that actually doesn't ride motorcycles. I'm not into that.
Just showing up, hanging out
Yeah,
in the 7-Eleven parking lot.
with just like jackets.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a jacket club. That would be really funny. Oh, that's a funny bit for a movie. You go somewhere and there's all these different gangs, and so the character is like, "Oh, are you guys in a motorcycle club?" And they're like, "No, we're the leather jacket gang." And then the camera whips across the other side of the room, and there's like the denim jacket gang.
And then the Letterman jacket gang,
Yeah, and then the fur coats.
poncho gang.
Okay, that's funny.
That's good, Seth. That's
All right,
good.
if anybody uses that,
We're
just
coming
tag
after
me.
you because we're in a gang.
Yeah, I would be the hoodie gang. I'm not big into
Mm.
jackets. I'd be the black hoodie gang, not pull over, zip up only.
See, that's good because you have a set rule. I want to
Oh, I'm
be in like that long bubble coat to the floor, walking sleeping bag.
sure.
Or actually Robes' coats, gang.
Rooms is gone.
I used to always wanted a line called Robes' Coats by MichRuby.
Yeah, it's not too late. Okay. Anyway, we know that it's a bad place because there's bikers around, right?
Yeah.
But I love it. Yeah, I think Thomas F. Wilson he's great in this, and it's so odd to me. Like, it's got to be such a hard thing as an actor to be part of like a massive film franchise that made $1 billion, but then everyone just thinks of you as Biff like forever.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that? You're part of the movie. You're a big part of the movie
Well, I
franchise.
mean, it's not like Thomas F. Wilson hasn't had like a huge career. Like, he's been Biff. He was in Freaks and Geeks,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
patreon.com/movie friends podcast, where we go through Freaks and Geeks episode by episode. And this is a good time to mention that we get Harold Weir at the end of this movie
So good.
as what's the company that they're part
Western
of?
Union.
Yeah, the Western Union delivery guy. So good. Anyway, so yeah, it's like he's Biff. It's iconic. He's part of one of the best, I mean, I'm just going to say it, best film trilogies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe it's hard for you to get other roles
Oh, because
because
you're
everyone
typecast
just
as Biff?
think of you as Biff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I have a feeling, I mean, I don't know, maybe Michael J. Fox or Christopher Lloyd maybe experienced some sort of that.
Definitely. Oh,
Like
yeah,
be
for sure.
zany.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
How do you feel about Christopher Lloyd in this movie, like compared to the first one?
I love him. Doc Brown to me, like I said, he's my favorite. I went as Doc Brown for Halloween.
Yeah.
I love him. He's always just like, great Scott. He's just so erratic. Marty, like urgency, urgency, urgency. And
Right.
I am like, yes, you are a shot of espresso. And I love
Yeah.
it.
I noticed this time around, like Christopher Lloyd's performance, it is like he snaps
Yeah.
into a position and then delivers his line and then like snaps out of it. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, I feel like it would be so painful, like physically almost to like do that. Like, I tried doing some of what you just did, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's real physical intense performance. And I think we just kind of take it for granted because it's like, yeah, that's Doc Brown, that's how he is. But it's like, no, do that. Try doing what he's doing.
And I think, in the first movie, while he was zany, there it was still like we're still experimental. The
Mm-hmm.
second one, he's like figured it out and he's got a handle on things and like things are just going out of place and we were on one mission, but then the whole almanac, so it makes sense why he's over the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This this movie, it's I can see why people don't like this one. I want to put that out there. Like, I think the first movie is close to like untouchable. And I remember saying when we did the first episode, like, there are problems, but it's like an airtight screenplay where every detail comes back around. And I think that was one of my criticisms, was like, eventually it's just all payoff over and over and over and over and over and over again. But it does, everything's real airtight. This one, it feels like they were just like, you know what? Just put in everything and just go for it. What did I send you? I sent you a GIF. And I
You
was
sent
like,
me a wild gif. It was like I don't even know how to
we'll have to put
describe
it,
it.
we'll have to put up a reel that has that GIF. Is that possible to
Yeah,
do?
I can do that. I can do
But
that.
I
But
was
I knew
like,
exactly what you meant.
but I was like, this is what this movie feels like to me. Like, it's so crazy. And like
Yeah.
the feeling that I had was when you're on a merry-go-round and someone else is pushing it and you're just getting like pulled out, like the centrifugal force is like pulling you out. You're like, oh, that's like this whole movie. At one point, the principal or teacher from the first movie is involved in a drive-by shooting.
He's got
And
so many bullets.
it's like kind of played for laughs. Like,
I know.
what? And so it was really odd. I watched the movie Boys in the Hood for the first
Uh-huh.
time
Uh-huh.
in between my 2 watches of this movie, and I was like, "Oh, drive-by shootings are not fun or funny or what? Like, what is going on in this movie?" And then he just, like,
Uh,
chases after them with a shotgun. He's, like, shooting after these kids, presumably, and it's just like, yeah, it's totally nuts. So Michael J. Fox is wearing, like, a leather jacket and a fedora and sunglasses.
yeah, the fashion
It's like
choice of that one.
yeah, yeah. How did you feel about some of the fashion choices in this movie?
Well, you can't help but compare of like what we actually saw in 2015, right?
Definitely.
And what
Yeah.
we were hoping for. I mean,
Yeah.
some cool things, the jacket that just adjusts to fitting. That's
Yeah.
nice. Also, something that would dry automatically when you get wet. That would be
Mhm.
super cool. The pockets inside out, that's what all the kids are doing. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the way it was shown to us is kind of like how we would think of like future fashion.
Definitely. I mean, Doc, when he shows up, and this was in the original version of the end of the first movie,
Yeah.
he's wearing like a clear plastic tie.
Yes.
Like it's kind of hard to see. I didn't notice it until my
Yeah.
second time around. I was like, "Oh, he's wearing a tie." Future Marty is wearing 2 ties. It's like a double tie with like a piece of fabric in between. It's so
Uh-huh.
odd and
Uh-huh.
weird.
Also, like Doc Brown's glasses, like the silver
Yeah.
frame. There's no way you're seeing through that and driving in the dark. There's no way. I'm not like
Yeah, I
I
don't
love
know what
it.
the right.
It's a
Well,
great
it's like in
look,
the
but
future, we can see through metal. Like,
right.
yeah. Zemeckis said, he was like, I don't like people's versions of the future. This, and he says, because it's just stuff that they made up. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what all fiction is. You just made it up. But
What?
Zemeckis and Gale worked with the production team, and they were kind of going for like an anti Blade Runner, anti 1984 future. They're like, the future is always like bad. Like, it's always like,
Yeah.
dark and horrible. And like 1985 is like dark, but it's not like technologically dark. It's just like, oh, a casino and like bad people.
Right.
But their version of 2015, it's just normal life. It's just like with updated technology.
Right.
And
What
so
do you
that
think
is,
about the technology?
I don't want to like rag on the people who made this movie because it's got a lot of production value. I think it's so stupid and silly. It's like a cartoon. So like they did a good job. One thing that kept bothering me was all of the robot voices in the future sound like a speak and spell, or like
What?
it sounds like, or what was that toy? This the speak and spell, right?
I have no idea what that is. A speak and spell?
The spell and play, the spell and talk.
I'll have to look this up. Spell and talk? I don't
It
think
was like
spell
a
and
It was like an orange board, and you would type in different words,
s-
and it would speak it.
spell and talk. I don't even
Or
know what to type for that. Okay, I'll take your word
speak
for
and
it.
spell. Speak and
Speak and
spell.
s- speak and spell. Speak and
Or
spell?
it would speak it to you,
Wait,
and you would spell it back.
is that it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I don't know this toy.
Okay, well, all of the voices in the future sound extremely robotic. And like in the
Well,
Cafe 80s, they have the different video screens that are waiters,
yeah,
but
with
then
Michael
the
Jackson.
people inside of the monitors are robots. I guess it was just like a
Yeah,
very limited view of like what robots would sound like in
well,
the future.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I still think when we think of a robotic voice, you think of someone who talks like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now we have Siri and you
Oh,
know,
I guess she is a robot, isn't she?
somewhat, but people actually record those voices. Like humans actually record those voices.
I know I always wanted that job. I want to be
Whew.
someone's like
Personal assistant, personal
MapQuest,
AI.
Google directions voice.
I
Make a
set
left
my
up here.
Siri
Woohoo!
to Irish.
Yeah, Anne Hall's
Yeah.
Australian.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, Siri. I don't know if my microphone picked that up, but I just said that and Siri said, I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Yo, Siri, know your place.
But I like setting her to Irish because she pronounces all of the streets and stuff really wrong as I'm driving. And I don't know
Mhm.
why I like that extra bit of challenge, but it's just funny.
Hmm, that's
Anyway,
nice,
that
Seth.
was, yeah. Hoverboards obviously aren't real.
Yeah.
Flying cars aren't real quite yet. You can pre order. There's a flying car that's coming out.
No.
Yeah. I mean, you can
Mm-mm.
pre order it for like, $500,000, but
Wow. I mean, the whole video call, that's pretty
yeah.
accurate. We still have
When
that.
when Marty Jr. goes home and says, okay, give me channel, and then names like 8 channels and sits down and watches all of them, I was like,
Yeah.
that is very accurate because
Yeah.
people will watch a movie, but then they'll have,
Mm-hmm.
their phone or they'll have other things going on. And so the idea that like people in the future aren't just watching one thing, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty funny.
When Lorraine brings over the tiny, tiny, tiny Pizza Hut pizza
Oh, yeah.
and she puts it in the hydrator, right? Hydrate on
Hmm.
level 4, please.
Right.
It's ready in 3 seconds. And then she just touches it bare hand. I'm
Yep.
like, it's steaming hot, yet your hand isn't burnt. If that's how it is in the future,
Right.
sign me up.
That scene was really funny to me because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
Mm-hmm.
adults. And they say, oh, who's going to eat all that? And it's one pizza.
I
And I
know.
was like, excuse me.
I know. I know.
You need minimum 2, maybe 3.
We got to talk about the George of it all, though. This is the first time we see George
Oh,
McFly coming
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wowzas.
It's unfortunate. And I think most people know, if you aren't aware, Crispin Glover, depending on who you ask, he either wanted too much money or he had a
Yeah.
big problem with the resolution of the first film philosophically, because to him it was like, oh, they have money now, everything is good and everyone is happy. If you ask the producers, they say he asked for too much money and we didn't want to give it to him.
And I also read he just didn't like the second script.
And that's totally possible. He could have been being difficult. They could have been being who knows
Mm-hmm.
what really went down. But he doesn't come back for the sequel, and so they hire someone. Hiring someone, okay, but they used molds of his face because they had done old age makeup on him at the end of the first movie. They used molds of his face to make prosthetics for the other actor to wear. That's really scummy, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Because
creepy too.
they replace Jennifer,
Right.
you know, and
Right.
Jennifer was replaced because the original actress, her mom had gotten cancer, and so
Yeah.
she was not acting anymore. Very sad, but totally understandable. They reshoot some scenes. This is Jennifer. Okay. When they found out Crispin Glover wasn't going to be coming back, they really changed up the story. They were like, okay, George is going to get killed, and that's why he's not. Even though like the parents aren't really in this one that much, like it's a totally different. But
I
whatever.
know. And when we see him coming in, when we first see George and Lorraine come over for dinner, and George is upside down, he's just like
Yeah.
floating around. We could have used someone else. It would have been fine. You're not focusing on them.
No. Yeah. Yeah. To use his full on likeness like that, ugh,
Yes.
no good. No good.
No good. No good. Mm-mm.
Also, like, I know. Okay, so you're gonna rewrite the script because Crispin isn't coming back, but you're starting from the point of, oh, this is about your kids in the future. How much are you really going to have these characters in it
Right.
anyway?
Right.
The first draft of the script didn't have them go back to 1955. It had them go to the 60s. Yeah, and like it
Oh.
saw them like later on in life. So I don't know. I mean, it just feels so unnecessary. And then like once you do get there and you say like, all right, George isn't in this movie, don't put Crispin Glover's fake face in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think we needed him
No,
in that scene. In
no,
that scene.
just because it's 2015. George is in high school in 1955. It's not unusual to just say George died last year. Like your dad died. Marty's Marty's middle aged. Like it's not crazy for
Yeah.
Lorraine to come over by herself.
We
Like
don't
just
even
don't
have to
do it.
mention, or you just be like, George is at work, George is writing, whatever. Because
Yeah,
then when we see the different perspective of when we go back to 1955, you barely make out George and
right,
at the
right.
dance. So that could have
Yeah.
been, that's fine.
Yeah, it's all unnecessary, and it felt like they did it because they could do it, and
Right.
maybe they did it because they were like, fine, you don't want to,
Like
you want more
spite.
money, or you want, yeah, then you're gonna be in it anyway, and
No,
it's
it's
not
not
cool.
good. It's not
Yeah,
good.
it's like taking
And
all the cool, because I mean they're inventing, new motion control camera
mhm.
work for this movie. This was so they had done like split screen people before, but it would always be a static image, like the camera wouldn't move. And so now they could move the camera around and have two people in the same, the same person in the shot. Very, very cool. And then,
So cool.
but yeah, it all feels like very tarnished by them doing that.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
On that note, I was really impressed a few times with the multi characters played by one actor in the same scene. Specifically, when old Biff is talking with young Biff and they're sitting in the car, there's one point where the camera is focused on young Biff. Old Biff hits him in the head, and then the camera pans right, and we see old Biff sitting there.
Mhm.
So, did they have someone like reach over and hit him and then jump out of the car just in
Mm.
time for the
Mhm.
camera to pan over? And then old Biff hands young Biff the almanac, and it's like a clean handoff. How did they do that? Like that
Yeah.
would have required a lot of coordination, I feel, right? I mean,
Yeah. I know. It looks pretty cool. It's pretty good.
yeah,
I mean, my
it
favorite
looks good.
of the doubles was Doc Brown talking to Doc Brown and giving him the right tool. Like, oh, you're doing a weather, we're not making eye
Yeah.
contact. That was great. That was great.
I think that only works because Doc Brown is so scatterbrained.
Correct.
Because when he first looks at him, he's like, "Hey, you there?" And he fully just looks him in the
I know.
face.
I know.
You wouldn't be like, "Hey, what?"
Wait. Yeah.
We've talked about a lot of points of the plot, but there's so many. They find out that Biff brought the almanac back because he finds the receipt in the car, and Doc explains the splitting of the timelines, which I think I get. Until we
Okay.
add in Jennifer and Einstein.
Okay, good. Because I'm not gonna lie to you. I rewound it like 3 times. The
Yeah, I
chalkboard scene, and he's like, and then this. We were living
yeah,
in the alternate 1985,
right,
and we need to get
right.
back on this timeline. But then the Jennifer and the Einstein thing, and I was like, ooh,
I really think that not that Doc is like purposely lying to Marty, but I think he's wrong about that.
he has to be. It
Yeah,
doesn't. Yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
yeah. No, I mean it makes sense that like there is one timeline because no one has ever time traveled before.
No, no, no. I get that. It's not that
Yeah,
Jennifer and Einstein won't be affected.
yeah,
That part doesn't really make sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes and he's like, "Well, I'll ask him. I'll ask him when he got the almanac." And so Biff just tells him. He shows up and he's in the hot tub and
I love that he's watching a western.
yes,
This is
yes,
like getting us ready. And he's
yes.
just like,
Oh,
ah, bulletproof vest, great foot,
right.
great foot. I was like, I love this so much.
Yeah, this does the sequel thing. This
Yeah.
does the middle of the trilogy thing
Yeah.
where now we're setting up seeds for the third movie, but
Yeah.
the first movie did none of that. And so it's
Right.
like it feels so heavy-handed once you see it like looking back on all three. Cuz yeah,
Yeah.
Doc's like, "Oh, I would have liked to have visited my favorite time period that I've never talked about before." And then at the museum, it's like going all the way back to Mad Dog
Yeah.
Tannen,
Mm-hmm.
that guy. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, whatever. But I think all of it's fine because, like I said, I like these movies. Like I think that they're good.
They're so fun.
So after Marty gets the info, he gets the date and jumps off the roof, which I thought was
So
pretty good.
Aladdin. It's so
Yeah,
Aladdin.
him and Doc are flying away, and Marty says, "Doc, you'll never believe it. We got to go back to 1955." And Doc says, "I don't believe it." And I don't know why. I think it's just both of their deliveries. Like, it's
Yeah.
just so funny. I think that's my favorite line from this movie.
Yeah.
And then followed up with they're in the car and Doc is like musing. He's like, it's so weird that, old man Biff went back to this exact time. It's almost as if that date is like the center of all time travel, blah, 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 blah. He's like, or it's just a coincidence. I thought that was also pretty funny.
That was funny.
Okay, I spoke too soon. I have an actual favorite line. And this is a line that has rattled around in my brain my entire life. We need to talk about
I wonder if it's mine. Go ahead.
the best little cameo. It's not even a cameo because it's not like this dude's super famous. I think he stole that guy's wallet guy.
That was mine! Because he does like a double take.
Yes. Yes. And it happens
That is mine,
twice.
Seth.
He
Yes.
says it twice. They had to know. Like on that day, they were like, this is funny. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that is mine. That's
He's just like so Marty realized he keeps trying to grab this book and he realizes like, oh, I know when Biff will be out of commission and it's when he gets punched. So he runs up to the crowd and this guy, he's like, hey, back off, it's okay. I know CPR. And the guy's like, what's CPR? He kind of looks like a human version of like Beavis or Butthead. And not to say
yeah,
that this guy is like ugly
okay.
looking or anything,
Sure.
but he's got a very interesting look. And then yeah, Marty Marty punches him in the face again, grabs the almanac and runs away. And the guy's like, did he just steal that guy's wallet? I think he stole that guy's wallet. It's great. It's amazing.
I know, and we stay on the shot.
Yeah. He holds
We stay on it. And I'm like, who there's no like I don't know if other people would catch it, but I also paused that and rewound it because I was like, this right here, this is my favorite line.
Yeah, that's the type of comedy that you can't write. I think you
Correct.
can't even plan for. Like,
Correct.
how did the directors that day say, okay, today is I think he stole that guy's wallet day, and we need to make sure, you know what I mean? Like,
You can't.
that's
Right.
just the type of joke and humor that like clicks with you. And like I said, that has been in my brain. And
Uh-huh.
anytime, now I don't want to say anytime. I don't want to be facetious, but like facetious, dramatic. I don't know. I don't want to be something. Many times when I hear the word wallet, in my mind, I will say, "Did he just steal that guy's wallet? I think he just stole that guy's wallet."
Because like those sentences are not funny. Like if you read them on
No.
paper, they're not
Yeah.
funny lines.
Yeah.
It was just a magical moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
It's great. I
Yeah.
was watching this behind the scene thing that covered all three movies, like an hour and a half. I was like, I don't know.
Ooh.
I don't have time to watch this. And then I ended up watching the majority of it, but
Where'd you watch it?
on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Galen Zemeckis said, they're like, the script for Back to the Future isn't funny. It's all in how it's reacted. Like all of the lines, it's how Michael J. Fox reacts to everything. And that's probably why Stoltz didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because they knew the bits were funny, but he wasn't reacting to them the correct way. And so nothing seemed funny. So now it's like, well, this isn't a comedy anymore. And it's
Right.
all in, how people react to certain things. So Marty has to stop the goons, Biff's little gang, and he does it by murdering them with sand. All right, so I would guess that each of those sandbags are probably about 10 pounds. They're small. They're relatively small. But there's got to
Yeah.
be 15 of them all bunched together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he drops from higher than one story,
Correct.
150 pounds of solid weight on the top of their heads. And that's all I can think of. I'm just like, you killed them. Like they're dead.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that affect the that would affect
The
the
future?
timeline
Yeah. Oh,
somehow?
yeah. Apparently not.
All
They
those
didn't do
deaths?
anything with their lives, apparently.
No, nothing.
But then, they start to get up and he drops it on them again. And I'm like, holy
Right.
moly. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
One of the recurring themes throughout this movie, and is brought up again in the third movie, it's not really in the first one, is this whole idea that Marty cannot turn away from a fight if someone calls him a chicken.
Yeah. Do you have a trigger word like this?
Um,
Wow, I can't believe you have to think about this.
yeah, I mean, I don't like when people accuse me of certain things that I would consider to be like central to my character. You know what I mean?
That's deep, Seth. Yes.
Okay.
Man, I I can understand what you're saying, but I mean like just a particular I mean the word chicken meaning he's a wuss. But
Right.
like do you have an example?
Not of like one word. Like if someone said like, "Oh, you're a this," I'd be like, "Oh,
You would fight? You see
no,
red?
no,
Oh
no." I
right.
mean,
So you don't
it's
really
crazy because like old Marty in 2015 literally breaks the law. Like when he's talking to Flea
yeah.
on the video call, and he's like, "This is against the law. I can't do that." And then he calls him a chicken. He's like, "I'll break the law. I'm not a chicken." It's like, okay, it's crazy extreme.
Right,
And then
he's
he
extremely
does walk
triggered.
away from Biff. Like Biff's staring him down,
Mhm.
and he's like, "Let's have it out." And he's just like, "No," and like starts to walk away. I was like, "Oh, that's good." But then it kind of all gets ruined because he's like, "You're a chicken," and it's like Marty just loses all control. I
Right.
I think that's weak. I don't buy that fully.
I mean, it just that's like one of his character traits that we just accept.
Yeah.
Is like don't call
Yeah.
Marty chicken. He sees red. It's like turns.
It is important in the third one. It comes around and all that kind of, but
Mhm.
it just felt a little, it's a little too strong. Like make it, I don't know. I mean,
Like
I'm,
maybe we
I'm
have to
asking, I'm
build
asking for
on it.
subtlety
Yeah, or maybe we
in
do
Back in
have
the
to
Future
build on
too.
it.
Yeah.
Sure, but like Marty is such like this we think we know him and then for him to just turn on chicken, like it should be like a
Yeah.
couple of chicken or a couple of before
Yeah.
he gets to the red.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, Biff calls him a chicken. Biff says it. And then Biff says, "I guess I'll have to take it out on your friend George." Or, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like something. Like there's got to
Yeah,
be something
yeah.
more. But, um, and then we get, the great chase. I mean, I think it's really good. Like them in
Now,
the
do
tunnel.
you
And
do you think the hoverboard is actually working or it's just the way like the pace of the car and the wind is keeping him afloat? Because this technology wouldn't work.
oh, you don't think it would work in the past?
I don't because it wasn't invented yet.
Wow. Wow. I didn't think
This
about
also
that.
came to me yesterday when I was really
That's pretty interesting.
it could work because of the air pressure and the
Hmm.
speed of the car. So you just like kind of something to like lightly float on.
Right, right,
But I
right.
don't think it's actually doing what it's supposed to do because it wasn't invented yet.
Yeah, and I think when they say like, "Oh, it doesn't work on water because you have to have power," because like their hoverboards work, right? Like in the beginning, like Griff and his gang, they're like chasing him across the water because like
Which
his like
is
stops.
yeah, yeah.
I think that that's supposed to be setting up why his doesn't work that well later on, but also I don't think hoverboards are supposed to move as fast as cars anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But I think that it's shot well. I think
It's cool. It's
it works
super cool.
good. It's a good way to get the manure thing back in one more time.
Let's bring it around. Let's bring it around. I
When
hate
the guy
manure.
tells Biff in the beginning, he's like, "Oh yeah, it costs $300, $302." I was like, $300? He could have bought a new car for that, I feel like.
Yeah.
So they get the almanac, they go out back to the big stretch of highway. He burns it. And again, like little details that they put in, he burns it from a matchbook that he took from Rich Biff's desk. And then when he burns the almanac, it turns back into the matchbook from Biff the car cleaner, which that doesn't make any sense. Like,
It's like it just went, well,
because it wasn't
kind
the
of it
same.
does.
It wasn't the same matchbook. Like in the first movie, he has a photo and the photo keeps changing. But like this is just a random matchbook. Anyway, whatever.
I like it. I like it.
It's fun. No, it's fine. It's the way of doing the photo thing. Because then they also have the newspaper. I do get a big laugh out of when the headline changes from George McFly murdered to George McFly honored. I don't know why. I think that's so funny, but it's funny. It's a funny thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Doc gets struck by Doc gets struck by lightning. They're like, we did it, oh my gosh. And then he gets struck by lightning and disappears.
Right. But not really, because the whole Western Union of it all. And like when Harold comes.
Yeah.
Western
they
Union
do show the time thing, like fritzing out a few times.
They do, yes.
And Doc's like, oh, I got to fix that. It's like, yeah. Yeah, you have to fix that. What are you talking about? This happens. Harold comes. What do you think?
I love it because he shows up in the rain and he's like, man, we've all been waiting at the office if this was actually going to happen. Like he shows up to the day, to the point, to the time, right? And then when he reads it, and he's like, 1885?
Yeah.
Doc's alive! 1885! And you're just like, what? And Harold just wants to understand. The whole office is waiting for his report.
Right. Which, okay, if that were true, and this letter has been sitting around for 70 years, longer than Harold. I mean, we keep calling him Harold because his name is Harold Weir in Freaks and Geeks. Longer than this guy's been alive. And you're like, today's the day, guys. Wouldn't all of you be there? Like, wouldn't you all be like, let's go? Like, I want to see.
Right.
Because what if he lies? What if he,
what if he lies?
What if he has money on Marty being there and he can just be like, oh yeah, he was there. I gave it to him. It was great.
Right. Yeah, it's super.
But yeah, it's weird. Like it's always weird when a movie like introduces a brand new character and brand new idea like towards the end. But I like how they do it. It's kind of mysterious. You don't know if this is like a government person. You don't know if it's Doc himself for a minute because he's all shrouded in darkness.
Yeah.
And so Marty just like runs back to the town center where the lightning bolt happens, tells Doc what happened, and Doc just passes out. And then it doesn't say to be continued. It says to be concluded.
Concluded, which I like. Yeah. We know we're getting the final chapter.
Right. And then we get a preview at the end of our movie.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've watched the third one.
Well, it's going to be a while until you watch it.
I'm going to save it for when we do it next January.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's it. That's the movie.
That's the movie.
Or half of the movie because we didn't talk about a lot, but there's a lot here.
We did a good chunk here. We covered the points I wanted to cover.
Do you think, not in a negative way, but do you think that this is a mess? Like, I feel like this is a little bit of a mess.
It absolutely is a mess. It feels like we were on a track. Like I said, we're on a track in the beginning. And then it's just so much. Let's just throw in all of these ideas and we're jumping all over the place. 2015, 1985, 1955, 1885. It's like, the whole almanac and having to go back to 1950. Yeah, that, like the exact time. I mean, it works. I accept it. It gives you a little bit of a headache following it.
Yeah, and it's like it's not just like, oh, we're traveling back and forth. Because in the first one, we're going back to 1955. It's 1955. Okay.
That's it.
And then we're in the 80s, and it's pretty. But like in this one, you go to the future, and Lorraine isn't just Lorraine. Lorraine is like a super plastic surgeon up version of Lorraine.
Yeah.
And George McFly is like floating upside down, and it's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's super zany, and to do like these 3 time periods. And then like because like the beginning of it feels so, it almost feels disconnected from where we end up. Like the reason we went to the future
Definitely. Oh, it all gets
was
forgotten
because
in
of
like
Marty's
5
kids. You
seconds.
almost you
Yeah.
almost forget about it. And then once that's
Yeah.
solved, it's like, "Oh, we're back to," but
I
it
think you
also
do
feels
forget
very
about
much
it.
like you do. And then but it also feels very much like the first one. We're following like verbatim, like
Yeah.
a chase scene and the manure, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. There's a formula, but it's a lot.
And it does make me believe that they did not intend on making a sequel, because that whole setup of
Yeah.
your kids, Marty, your kids, it's like done within 10 minutes. And then it's just like, oh no, actually it's this whole other thing. But I'm
Yeah.
glad that they did it. Cause like I said, how often do you see someone go into the movie that you just watched, that you know? It's pretty rare that happens.
Yeah.
So this movie was made for $40 million, which is a lot, but considering the first one made like 300 something, high 300s, it's
Mhm.
pretty reasonable, honestly.
Mhm.
This goes on to make 332.5 million on a $40 million budget. Totally crazy. This has a 62 on Rotten Tomatoes, which was surprising to me. I think anything below 60 is considered rotten. So that was
What?
pretty shocking. Yeah, that was pretty surprising. 57 on Metacritic. But I think on Metacritic the user score was maybe 8.2. I don't want to, hey, if you fact check me and I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but so I get that. And then Letterboxd is 3.9. So I think audiences like this and critics do not like this.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Ebert liked it. He gave it 3 out of 4.
Okay.
I don't know how long in the 11 months this movie was shot for, but between the two movies, 11 months total with a 3-week break in between. So we asked some people on Twitter what they thought. The Moderner at the Moderner 1969 says, I always think about Crispin Glover condemning this movie for using his likeness when this movie comes up. Pretty messed up, and a historical lawsuit ensued, I believe. That being said, I was obsessed with the hoverboards and love this movie. Much darker than part one.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I had the same thought. I was like, this is way darker. And the stakes
I
are
mean
now like worldwide. The stakes before was like, Marty, your parents got a kiss.
or you'll never be born. But I mean, they
Yeah.
like Biff literally murders George.
Yes.
So it's super dark.
2 McFlies, 1 gun.
Right. Can't find the bullet. Can't identify the bullet.
Kate
Kate.
at A Kate M says this movie is so fun. What do
Mhm.
you think about the hydrated pizza and Michael J. Fox as the daughter?
Well, we sure did express our thoughts on that. It
I've never
works.
had. Have you ever had hydrated food, like military rations?
I'm trying to think. I've had astronaut ice cream.
Oh,
Not
I've
the
never
same
had
thing.
that. Is it good?
Moon cheese? Not the same thing.
Moon cheese.
I think I'm dehydrating my food. I'm not like
Oh,
hydrating
okay.
it. Yeah, no, I've never done that.
I
Hmm.
just rediscovered my love for instant mashed potatoes.
Oh my gosh, what?
Love them. Love them. That's what we would eat growing up, because you can make,
Sure.
huge bowl of mashed potatoes without peeling them, cutting them, boiling them, and
Yeah.
they have a particular flavor. Greatest thing. So much nostalgia. So I probably would have loved the hydrated pizza.
I mean, I love that how quick it is. So I'm down for that.
Night of the Nyx Eclipse at Nyx Eclipse says, I remember the audience being let down by the reveal that we had to wait for part 3 for the story to be finished.
Yeah, and that came 1990.
I think it was about a year. Yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder
I mean, you know.
I wonder if going into it people knew that there would be a part 3, you know?
Well, it didn't say to be concluded, right? In the theaters, you said?
No, this one did say to be concluded.
Oh, it
The
was
first
the
one
first
didn't
one. I'm
say.
sorry. I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, so
Oh,
what I'm saying is like if you went to see Back to the Future Part 2, did you already know, oh, part 3 is coming out?
right.
Or did you think that this was it? I'd be curious to
Yeah.
see like the marketing
Yeah.
material for that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Patrick Vicious at Alleyway Crew.
Oh.
Maybe
Oh.
he's part of a motorcycle gang
Come join us. Grab your
or
jacket.
just an alleyway crew.
Sure. Alleyway crew.
He would be Jennifer in this movie, sleeping in the alley.
That's right. Jennifer just got to sleep.
Says, when I was a kid, it was my favorite one of the trilogy. As an adult, I admittedly realized the original is pretty much undoubtedly the best one, but I still like 2 a lot.
Ooh. Hmm.
I
Interesting.
know, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's like ooh.
Mm.
Felicia at Cinnamoroni.
There she is.
Doesn't it feel like so long since we've done this?
So long. I'm doing it for the first time.
Felicia at Cinnamoroni says, "What are your thoughts on the old Elizabeth Shue switcheroo?"
Well,
Yeah, I
I
think she does
mean,
good. I think
she does do
I
good. Well, she does
yeah.
well.
I did have the thought it's interesting that in the first one we had Eric Stoltz for 5 weeks and then
Mm-hmm.
Michael J. Fox takes over and that's
Mm-hmm.
obviously who we think of as Marty McFly. And then with Elizabeth Shue coming in as Jennifer, that's kind of who I think of as Jennifer like when I think about these movies.
Elizabeth Shue?
So it's just interesting that it kind of happened like twice.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
the actress who plays Jan Levison Gold on The Office,
Yes.
she
Yes.
originally was casted, but she was too tall, right? So like Jennifer's been three people.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy that a movie about altered timelines and futures and pasts that are not has all of these like weird misconnections with the casting in this like massive film franchise.
Yes.
Okay. First non-Brazilian to travel through time at Jules Ford. And I'm going to need an explanation on that one
Wait,
if
this is a
possible.
Twitter handle?
Yeah. Well, their display name is first non-Brazilian to travel through time. This is going over my head. I can't offer any.
It's got to be
They
from some
say,
universe we don't know. Okay.
yeah, I don't know. They
Yeah.
say nostalgia bias maybe, as all 3 are formative favorites, but Back to the Future 2 definitely rocks.
I
Can
agree.
you believe like this is a lot of people consider this like the worst one?
Yeah, that's nuts to
Yeah,
me. Does it ever get in your head when like you like something and then majority doesn't or vice versa and you're like, do I have bad
all the
taste?
time, all the time. Oh yeah, all the
I think
time.
that's like
It's
the
not so much
story
that
of
I,
my
do I have
life,
bad
actually.
taste. It's just it's like I want to. I always say like I want to enjoy movies. I want to be part of the fun. The biggest ones for me is
Hmm.
like the Avatar movies. When people talk about how amazing that experience is to see the Avatar movies, and I watch it and I'm just like I want to leave. Like this is not. I feel like I'm
The
watching a
first one
screensaver.
was pretty
Yeah,
and long, right? Really
yeah,
long.
pretty long.
Yeah, pretty long. Exactly.
Sam Vanivray at Sam Vanivray says, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I always felt like it had the same problem many number 2 films have, which is they're like glue between number 1 and number 3.
Sure, there's definitely something to be said about that.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I just don't think I don't know, I just don't find it like to be so much to the detriment of this film, you know?
Same.
So those are some friends that we do know. Now we'll go to a segment of the show where we hear from people that we don't know. It's called half star, 3 star, 5 star. All right, so these are ratings from Letterboxd.com. We start with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a film. And then we go up to a 5-star rating, which is the highest that you can give a film. And the half-star review, last time I believe I did Christopher Lloyd for the first movie. I'm going to do this one as Biff.
Yes. Can you do it as Griff?
But I was just going to say, I just don't want to do it as Griff.
Oh, no.
Because Griff is like Biff, but like high-pitched and like frantic at the same time.
Yeah.
It's grating. Like, Griff was
I
my
know.
least favorite guy. I was like, dude,
Well-
get Griff out of here.
Yeah. So you gonna do old man Biff or are you gonna do rich Biff?
I think I think Rich Biff is probably
Okay.
the closest that I can do.
Okay.
Butthead. Let's see. They said it. He said if an old
That's good, Seth. That's good.
said an old man and a young kid ever came around. That's kind of just a growly voice, but okay.
It's good.
They say a good movie makes you feel something. Well then, this movie must have been great because it made me feel like jumping into Doc's DeLorean to go back in time and murder everyone involved in making this. Half-star.
Whoa.
Hey, that was a good choice because that was the Biff that actually did murder people. So
Yeah, that was real good. Wow.
yeah, that's okay. Well,
That's very
sometimes
Biff of
movies
you.
make you feel like that.
I
Yeah.
guess. I've never felt that way, but
3-star review says, I enjoyed this second outing, but not quite as much as the first. I love how Robert Zemeckis kind of tested the waters with the first film to get a feeling for how wacky he could go with this one. However, what made the first film so lovable was the simplicity of it. Yes, it has its crazy moments for sure, but it had a family story in its core and a lot of heart. This one unfortunately strays from that a little too much, and it results in us having less of a connection to the characters. But it was still a lot of fun, and the world building was incredible. Also, did people in the 80s genuinely believe that we'd have flying cars by 2015? Maybe.
When did the Jetsons take place? What year was that?
Oof. Maybe the
Jetsons.
60s?
No, but their
Nope,
future.
that's Flintstones. Right? You were singing the Flintstones.
No, I said the Jetsons.
No, I know, but you were singing the Flintstones.
I was?
You said Jetsons. Meet the Jetsons.
Oh my gosh. You know, I want
Where
to
the
do that
Jetsons
movie.
is his boy Elroy.
Oh yeah. Meet George Jetson.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jane,
Okay, well.
his wife.
The
The only thing I remember from the Jetsons is Eep Op Ork Ah Ah. Do you remember that one? There was an episode of the Jetsons where there was a song, like a pop song, and it went Eep Op Ork Ah Ah, and that means I love you.
Wait, that's in when the Jetsons with the aliens? Not the aliens. Oh my god. The Jetsons movie. Isn't that from the Jetsons movie?
No, it was just some guy.
And Judy is like in love with the
No,
singer?
it was just an episode.
Okay, Seth is like
Yeah.
real gung ho about this. Okay.
Anyway, 5-star review says, an amazingly ambitious, paradox-filled second film in the trilogy. Equally intelligent and makes time travel easily accessible to all ages. But what the first film had in character credibility, the second has substituted for style. But, however you feel this compares to its amazing original, it still stands strong as a brilliant, solid, fascinating, and downright exciting sequel in one of the greatest adventure trilogies put to film.
Well said.
5 stars.
Well said.
Yeah. So you had rated Back to the Future, the first one, 4.5 stars, and you rated it as a movie. And I rated the first one 4 stars, and I rated it as a movie. So how do you feel about this one?
It's a movie. And like I like this one better. So
wow.
I'm gonna put this a little bit above 4.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
You like this one better.
I do. As messy as it is, it's so fun. And it's really, ever since I saw it, like when I was younger, I loved just seeing 2015 and what it could be.
Yeah.
And even though we like leave that very early, I guess part of me does like all the bouncing around. And I like having
Yeah.
discussions about it. So the second one for me is my favorite.
Wow. Okay. I agree that this is a movie, and I don't think that I like this one better. I like it different.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, when you like love a band, they put out an album and it's great, and then they put out a second album and it's great,
Yeah.
and then they put out a third album and it's like this is a totally different style.
Mm-hmm.
And so at first maybe you're like I don't like this, but then you grow and you're like, "Oh, this is actually like really good." That's how I feel about this movie. I think it's a mess. It's crazy, and it does stray so far from the simplicity and like tightness of the first one, but I think it's so much fun and
Right.
it's just so dumb, and
Right.
the wallet guy
Yeah.
shows
Yeah.
that they're still able to like
That's
just
it.
capture
That's it.
fun, interesting things. So I'm going to stick with 4,
Uh-huh.
but I think that 4 is a great movie, and so I
Right.
think it's pretty great that they were able to like expand so much and not make a worse movie. But that's just my opinion. A lot of people think this one
Yeah.
is bad.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
and I love the first one too. And that's why I'm like a little bit above 4.5 because they're
yeah.
pretty equal. But
Yeah.
if I have to put them in order, like if Biff has a gun to my head,
And I do think having all 3 flow into each other, like starting this one with the end of the first one and then ending this one with a preview of the third one, I think it's cool. I,
yeah.
I think they had an opportunity to do it and they did it.
Yep.
So, why? Yeah, good for them,
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll see in a year.
When we do Back to the Future and Shrek 3.
And the third part of the next week's movie,
Yeah.
which I've never seen before, and I'm gonna wait until next year to see it. So you and I will see it for the first time ever. What movie is it? Well, you'll have to listen to me read some commercials first, like this one. Hey, we'd love it if you'd give us a rating and a review. I think my segues get worse and worse as time goes on, but give me a break, folks. I've been out of this for a few
It's
weeks.
okay. You're doing good, Seth.
Wherever you're listening, go on to that rating and just say, boom, baby. Big rating. Good one. If you're not subscribed to us, just hit subscribe. What's the big deal? You got 100 other shows you're subscribed to. Make us 101, okay? It costs you nothing. Stop being greedy. Would also love it if you send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about Back to the Future. Please, Michelle loves this movie,
I do.
which is why we picked this one. Yeah, out of
Yes.
all the other ones. We could have done Before Sunset or Before Sunrise. We could have done um another movie. I don't know.
We could have
John Wick
done
2,
right. Or Matrix 2
Matrix 2, but we
or
didn't. So let
no, we
us know what
didn't.
you think about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. By the time this episode goes out, the first episode of our new series, Stop or My Mom Will Podcast, will be out, and you're missing out on it if you aren't subscribed. We're doing action movies with my mom. The first one is on the first Fast and Furious movie, and it's good. It was a good episode. I recorded it with her, and I was like, wow, that went really well. Not that I
I
was
can't wait to
surprised,
listen to
but
this. I can't wait.
yeah,
It's so nice to be a fan of your own network.
yes. It's gonna be a fun. It's gonna be a fun series.
Yeah.
$5 a month, you get access to all of our extra episodes, the patron Discord. You support the show, and you know what? I'm just gonna say it. I haven't talked about this with Michelle. This is just happening. If you sign up for our Patreon, I'm gonna send you a T-shirt for free.
Whoa. These are cool t-shirts.
Wow!
Like,
And you know what?
I'm jealous.
People are gonna say, "Where'd you get that shirt?" And you're gonna say, "Get away from me! I don't know you."
Nope. That's not what's going to happen.
So next week, we didn't want to do this one right after the live show because it was like, holy moly, our brains are scrambled. But before sequel month is over. We're going back to the beginning. Very first episode that we ever did. The Godfather. We are doing The Godfather Part 2, a film that many people consider to be the greatest sequel of all time. We couldn't pass this one up, even though this movie is 202 minutes. Michelle just died. That's right. 3 hours and 22 minutes.
Is this the longest movie we've done so far?
By far, this is the longest movie that we've done so far.
All right. You know what? It's a new year, Seth. I welcome the long
Yes.
movies. This is part of Michelle turning over a new leaf. I am not going to complain about the length of a movie anymore.
I mean, good for you, but I mean, even I'm like, holy cow, this is crazy.
Well, I'm not going to start with that. I'll say that.
Okay. Save it for next week when you say, this movie's too long.
I'm going to really try to not work that into my verbiage. Okay.
So 202 minutes, 1974, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, currently streaming on Paramount Plus. And this movie is the 5th highest rated film on Letterboxd. Narrative film.
Wow.
So it's a good one. Well, thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Seth.
This was
You ready?
fun.
You ready? Here we go. Season 2.
I'm ready. Season 2. Yeah.
We're here.
We're here. We're in it. Sequels. It's going to be good. Hey, until next time, when we're talking about The Godfather Part 2, thank you for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by SethVargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks!